Pats Nation, it's time to get pumped. It's time to get excited because the Patriots are about to lock people up in 2025. New England has signed not one, but two of the best defenders on the market. First, Carlton Davis, corner of the Detroit Lions, Super Bowl champ with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Remember Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Yeah. Carlton Davis has signed a 3-year, $60 million contract with New England to create one of the best corner combinations in professional football with Christian Gonzalez. We're going to talk about why the Patriots are about to play a ton of man coverage in 2025, and I'm super excited for it. He brings physicality. He brings another dimension to this defense. We're creating an elite secondary in New England. And the other signing, Robert Spillane, one of the most underrated linebackers in the entire NFL. He played under Josh McDaniels in 2024, 2023, 2022, right? He was a part of that tenure as well. Josh McDaniels actually brought him to Las Vegas. He signed a 3-year contract worth $37.5 million. He has been one of the best linebackers in football since getting to the Raiders, and now he comes to New England. He is going to bring intelligence. He's going to bring physicality. He is going to bring some power back to the Pats defense. I'm excited about both these signings. Both of these guys are two of my favorite players at those positions to watch. I really like their feistiness. I like their IQ, and I like the way they play, and I like the way they fit the Patriots style of ball. So first, let's break down the headline signing, which is Carlton Davis, the bigger name, 3 years, $60 million, okay? And I love this idea of just getting another corner on the other side to play the perimeter to complement Christian Gonzalez. Now you have two guys that have been CB1s, two guys that can lock it up, two guys that can match up on the opposing wide receivers. And a lot of people talk about how this is a passing league. A lot of people talk about how, wide receivers are a big deal. Well, if you got two corners that can cover two stud receivers, that helps you in a lot of different ways. It helps you to be able to blitz. It helps you to be able to stop the run. It enables you to have numbers in different ways on your defense. And Carlton Davis is great in many aspects. I think he's one of the best press coverage corners in the NFL. I think he's one of the most physical and feisty cornerbacks at the line of scrimmage. He's a great tackler. He brings a competitive nature to his game and to this defense. He wants to be the guy to lock down an opposing wide receiver one. He brought that to Detroit last year, and he actually might have just had his best season in the NFL with the Detroit Lions. And then you look at, Christian Gonzalez on the other side. We know how much of a stud he is. He's one of the best corners in football. You complement those two guys together in kind of different ways too. Gonzalez is more of a smooth sailing athlete, while Davis is more of that feisty physicality. So I love the dimension of both of them on the perimeter. Now, can the Patriots figure out who will play that nickel spot, whether it be Marcus Jones, Jonathan Jones, Austin, whether it be another free agent signing? We'll have to see. But yeah, I love Carlton Davis. I always have. 6'1", over 200 pounds, a pretty good size and strength of a corner. I loved him in Tampa Bay. He was one of those guys that I felt like was always very underrated. He has a knack for getting his hands on the football when it comes to passes defensed. He had 19 in 2019. He had 18 in 2020. He had 11 in 2021. 12 in 2022, and 11 in 2024, okay? Last year, he had 2 interceptions with the Lions, and he had 56 tackles. Now, he does have a tendency to miss a couple games every year. He consistently is around 13 to 14 games played per season. He typically does have issues with his hamstrings, his groins, things like that, which all corners typically do. But you look at his resume on Pro Football Reference in terms of passer rating allowed and completion percentage allowed, there aren't many that allow less completions. Like, he is a guy that, sure, he might give up the odd big play, not very often, but he's a guy that's going to force a low completion rate. He's a guy that's going to get his hands on the football every single pass that is converted on Carlton Davis is going to be tight. Every single tight window throw. I mean, every single one. I've watched this guy play a ton of football games thoroughly because I followed Tampa thoroughly. And Detroit last year, I thought he was phenomenal as well as being their pure CB1, matching up with wide receiver ones across the NFL for the best team in the NFC during the regular season. And he had no problems. I mean, he had no problems. So you look at his resume. I mean, 62% as a rookie allowed. Then it goes to 49% in year 2, 61 in year 3, 57 in year 4, 55 in year 5, then 61 in year 6, and back down to 55 in year 7 with Detroit. And then you look at yards per target. Never above 8.8, which was his last year in Tampa Bay at 26 years old. But he's had, 5.5, 6.0, 6.7, 7.5. You're allowing that yards per target when you're a corner. That's really impressive. His rating has kind of been around 80 for his entire career. 80, 87, 83, 82, 96, 77 last year, right? The higher percentage that he plays in man coverage, the better he is, in my opinion. He's been a guy that has been able to operate in systems where they play a lot of zone and a lot of man, some off zone, a lot of blitzing, right? Tampa was one of those defenses that liked to blitz a lot. Detroit was one of those defenses that liked to blitz a lot. So maybe there is going to be this tendency for the Patriots moving forward to blitz a lot because Davis is very experienced, whether it be in a press man coverage setting or an off zone setting. Now, I always feel like he's better at the line of scrimmage and he's better pressing because he's very good in that technical aspect. And I feel like Mike Vrabel wants to play that style. And I think that's always been a Mike Vrabel thing. That's always been a Bill Belichick thing. That's always been a Patriot way. Has been being physical at the line of scrimmage, knocking people off their routes, taking timing away from an offense, and that is huge for a defense, right? And I think the ability to have two corners on the outside that can do that at a high level and to be physical at the line and knock these receivers off their game and have that feisty edge that you need to be a corner, Davis brings an edge. He brings just this personality that you're really going to like as a Patriots fan. He is no nonsense. He is kind of quiet, but he's also very, very confident. Davis is an excellent player. Last year, he was 21st among all corners in his PFF grade, playing 697 snaps. His grading has been up and down throughout his career, but last year, he played 588 wide cornerback snaps. He graded 23rd in coverage and 19th in run defense. Okay. He is also going to be a much better CB2 because I think if there is an element of his game where he does tend to struggle, I think it's with the burner wide receivers. He's not the fastest guy, but he's excellent against twos, I feel like, because that will be something he's never really done before is be a CB2. He's always been a CB1. Tampa Bay, he was the CB1. He would always line up against the best receivers in football, whether it be in a man or zone setting. There were times where he would play his side of the ball and Jamel Dean would play the other. But in Detroit, he was pretty much tracking and manning up the best guys in the league. And now that you have Christian Gonzalez with him, I mean, that as he ages a little bit, Carlton Davis, and he becomes your CB2 and maybe he misses a couple games every once in a while, that's going to make him even better, in my opinion, because I just feel like he won't have to draw some of these really difficult matchups. That will be Christian Gonzalez. Well, Davis will be able to lock up guys. And you can even have moments where Gonzalez can take on the number 2 and Davis and a safety can take on the number 1. And you can even trust Davis with some of the bigger receivers in the league, right? Some of these more physical guys where Davis is really, really good. Actually, Jamar Chase, a year or two ago said that the most challenging corner he played was Carlton Davis because of his physicality. He's also an experienced player when it comes to playoff success. He obviously won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady in 2020 and was a huge reason for it. His ability to man up against a guy like Michael Thomas in the divisional round, playing against Devontae Adams in the NFC Championship. This guy has a lot of experience playing at a very high level in a lot of big games. Last season, he allowed a 59.7 completion rate according to PFF. He had 14 forced incompletion percentage and 10 forced incompletions. He allowed a passer rating of around 80. I believe that would track with Pro Football Reference. So, yeah, I mean, 87.9 according to PFF. So just checking the numbers and how they see it. 5.9. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, Carlton Davis, that's his style. He's going to be feisty. He's going to be physical. He's going to get his hands on you. And I love this signing. I love having corners in New England. New England's always been about coverage. New England's always been about man coverage. New England's always been about versatility of coverage. New England's always been about savvy corners. I mean, you think about Ty Law. You think about Asante Samuel. You think about Darrelle Revis. You think about Aqib Talib. You think about Stephon Gilmore, Christian Gonzalez now. Carlton Davis, I mean, he just really helps this defense in so many ways because now they can pack the box against the run. You bring in a guy like Harold Landry that helps you against the run and how that complements things. Harold Landry is best operated in a blitzing game scheme up front. That's really going to help Carlton Davis. And that's really going to help Landry unlock himself as a pass rusher because you have two corners that can play on the outside. I mean, I love this. I think it's a great move. I feel like now you get to Robert Spillane, who I think's been like the most underrated linebacker in football the last 2 years. Like, this is an exaggeration. I'm not just saying this because they're Patriots now. Like, guys, I've been hyping out Robert Spillane for a couple years now. And last year, he had an incredible season. He really did. He graded as the 31st best linebacker in football, playing 1,093 snaps for the Las Vegas Raiders. 1,093. All right. He had an 87.3 run defense grade, which was one of the best in the NFL. And his coverage has improved a lot as well. In 2023, he was the 16th graded linebacker. So the last 2 years, he's really broken out as a member of the Raiders. He's a premier run defense stopper. He's a hammer hitting you downhill. And he is also a great pass rusher, grading as the 14th best pass rusher at linebacker. His area of weakness, I would say, is coverage. But I think that he's gotten a lot better in that area as well. Spillane also is an absolute tackling machine. He is one of those guys that is in on every play. He had 158 tackles last year. 158. I don't remember a Patriot linebacker having that amount of that amount of tackles. I mean, maybe since prime Gerard Mayo. The year before that, 148 tackles. So that's consistency the last 2 years. 3.5 sacks in 2023, 2 this past year. He got his hands on the football more this year with 7 passes defensed for the year before. He has 3 interceptions in 2023, 2 in 2024, which goes to show his savviness in zone coverage. Despite his limitations in speed, he thinks the game at a very high level. He's not the most agile or swiftest athlete. He's a bigger guy, and he's a hammer. Like, you guys will really like the way this guy brings physicality. But he's really improved in his ability to cover. He had an 83 passer rating allowed in 2023, which I think is the biggest area. Because I remember him in Pittsburgh. He was like their third linebacker that would come in and help them stop the run, play in base personnel. But in Las Vegas, McDaniels found him, and McDaniels and that staff really allowed him to develop as their number one linebacker. And he really proved a lot of people wrong. I mean, this guy got after it in Vegas, and he was their dot guy, like their number one guy for calling their defensive plays, for being involved in, the checks and balances of the defense, for audibling, things like that, like for calling the plays in the huddle. Like, he was that type of guy for them as well. So in his run defense, he was the 6th graded run defense linebacker in football, according to PFF. He had 64 run play tackles, which was 3rd in the NFL. He had only a 3.9 missed tackle rate, which was 3rd best in football. He had 34 stops, which was also in the top 12. And his run play stop percentage was also above 8%, which was top 25. His average depth of target, if we can find his average depth of target, let's see. these are interesting stats that I'm just looking at. It was 13th. So in the NFL. So, like he's a beast, man. Like, don't sleep on him at all. He's a beast. He is a beast. I feel like Robert Spillane is a guy that I think Patriots fans are really going to like. He plays with a motor. He plays with a physicality. He plays with an energy. He plays with a level of intelligence. It's going to remind you of Mike Vrabel. It's going to remind you of Teddy Bruschi. It's going to remind you of Dante Hightower. I'm not quite sure if he's that caliber. But the last 2 years, man, he's been up there. Like, he's definitely been up there. So let's check just his pressure stats. So he had 13 pressures last year, which was 23rd. He had 2 sacks. He had 10 hurries, which was also 16th in the NFL. So they got him involved as a pass rusher. He had above a 10 pass rush productivity rate, which was in the top 20. So this guy can blitz. This guy can stop the run. This guy can do all of that in the Patriots system, which is what they look their linebackers to do, right? And if they're playing a lot more man coverage, that's going to unlock Spillane to do his best, right? Like Hightower. Hightower was never the best in coverage because of his movement. He was a bigger linebacker. But if they're going to play a lot of man on the back end with Gonzalez and with Carlton Davis, right, that's going to unlock Spillane to be a blitzer, to be heavily involved near the line of scrimmage. He can cover running backs just fine, right? He's not going to have to be backpedaling in zone as much as other linebackers in football, which would be kind of the weakness of his game, right? He is 29. He's a little bit older, but it took him a while to get a lot of snaps in the NFL. Like, he started only 7 games in the year 2020. He didn't play really at all in 2018 and 2019 with the Titans and the Steelers. He found a home with the Steelers, playing occasionally as a starter, and then he kind of had that breakout with the Raiders at 28 years old. So he's kind of a late career breakout, but has always been a player that when you see him on the field, he brings a presence, he brings a physicality. So I think what the Patriots have done here in their secondary and their front seven, they've brought power, they've brought oomph, they've brought pop, they've brought physicality, which I'm very happy about. So Patriots fans, let me know what you guys think of these signings. Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you enjoyed this conversation, you'll enjoy the BLV Discord. Link in the description. It's absolutely free. A lot of Pats fans, a lot of NFL fans in there. Check it out. Thanks for watching. It's Mitch. Peace.